Okay, let me get this out of the way right up front. This is the Ricoh GR1S. It is from the late 90s. It is a legend in the world of street photography and pocketability. This is not the camera we're reviewing today, and comparatively, not even close. I'll get there and why it's being compared. But this is the Kodak Snapic A1. This is what you showed up for. This is the new camera from Kodak Reto. Reto being a company that licenses the Kodak brand and slaps on some cameras they make, this being the latest one. So why the comparison? Why even mention the GR1S? A, I love this camera, but B, this is why it's being compared. It's the pocketability, it's the form factor, it's the size. And these guys are pretty similar. I mean, they're really close. I mean, to the point of, if I have a case for this, it'll fit this and vice versa. That's it though. Functionality-wise, these are two very different cameras, maybe two different audiences. I'll explain why I think there's a little bit of a gray area in between, but let's talk about that. So let's take a step back for a second. This Kodak Snapic A1, this is the new one. This is the Kodak Ultra F9, not made by Kodak Reto, different company, but still has that little Kodak logo on it. It gets very confusing. If you're looking to get someone a camera that shoots 35mm, maybe they're shooting disposable cameras now and then, this is a good step in the right direction. It is reusable, but it is very manual to the point of it is basically a disposable camera with a door to swap out your film. That's pretty much it. That said, that brings us to what the step up is. This you can get for about $50 US right now. For two of those, you can get one of these, which is the Snapic A1. Now, form factor, you can see why these two are not compared. This is a brick in your pocket made of plastic and nothing inside of here, and it's just making little shaky sounds. This is empty. It's plastic, but it's pretty solid. Has a few extra automatic features that this guy does not. Maybe that's a good place to start. Let's talk about what is automatic on this camera in the feature category. First and foremost, you have winding and advancing. This will wind your film, advance it, all that automatically. No awkward little gear dial you have to twist and turn every time you take a photo. Completely automatic in that department. And to me, for someone that's fairly new to 35mm film cameras, in my opinion, that's a good thing. Flash on this thing is also automatic. You turn on the flash mode on this thing, and if it needs the flash, it'll give it the flash, and it's pretty much that simple. So someone that doesn't like a lot of control or just wants to pull something out of their pocket and take a picture with friends or of something street photography, this can be okay. It's a good place to start. Spec-wise, let's talk about why you may not like it, and that's where we get closer to this thing, right? This is the GR1S, has a lot of automatic features and controls you have over what it's doing, plus some extra things it does, like DX reading. This does not read film speed at all. It's not programmable, it does not read it. It just takes 100, 200, or 400 film by recommendation in the manual, and that's it. It will not expose based on your film speed, so you gotta be a little bit careful there. For someone that's brand new to this, I don't think that matters too much, but for someone that wants a little bit more control over what they're shooting with or wants to shoot with something like Cinestill 800T, which I really like to do, not gonna work great in this camera, might get a little underexposed if anything, so just keep that in mind. To me, that's a giant misstep, honestly, for the price, the form factor, all those things. Just adding some either ISO manual input or DX reading would have been pretty simple in my opinion, but I digress. That aside, this is really pocketable, and I think that's the big selling point for this thing. Elsewhere on the lack of control area, there is focus, but it is zone focus, and for those not familiar, it's pretty much a little dial right here. This is landscape, this is portrait. We'll get into the actual details of how far away the zone focus is, but for someone that's just point and shooting, I think that's okay. It's pretty much bring up to your eye, look at the viewfinder, and just switch which direction you're going in. The top of the device also has this little OLED screen that includes your setting for zone focus. So if you forget, you don't have to stare at the front of it. You can just kind of see right on top. And it's got two little icons, one for like a portrait mode, one for a landscape. The OLED screen is also here to show your film counter as well. And again, I think that's the big automatic feature on this thing that is going to strike a lot of people in the right spot. Being able to auto wind and auto advance by itself, pretty cool feature and something I think has been missing from a lot of those other cameras like the H35N that have also come out under the Kodak brand name. Lens factor, this is a glass lens on this little guy. Compare that to a plastic one like this. This is a 31 millimeter equivalent lens. This is a 25, and compare that to this guy, which is a 28. Again, not comparing it features for features, just form factor. And I think that's the thing, right? Is think about this as a much more affordable, lacking features, entry-level version of something like a GR1S, or to be honest, just more attainable. Okay, specs aside, it doesn't really matter. Let's just go out and shoot this thing and take a look at what it looks like. So we have some Kodak Color 200. We'll load this thing in for the first time, and then get some photos. This is my first time loading it, and it's supposed to be auto winding, so we'll see how easy that is here. So, got this. And I think you're just supposed to give it a little bit in there. I think that should be it. And then let's see. Oh, okay. So it wants me to. All right, we're at 0 now. So first off, let me take a picture of you. I'm also just realizing I had on the wrong mode, which I'm going to screw that up a bunch. But so now it's on portrait. Let me try portrait. I will say the winding's pretty good, but all right, let's go take some shots. Let me take a quick shot here. I will say initially, the auto winding, I love any cameras that auto wind, and it's pretty quiet when it does it. So far so good. Okay, we are at 36 photos. There should be 37 in this roll, so I'm just gonna burn the last one just so we can kind of see what the end of the roll should look like. All right, now we're at 37. It says 38, but I don't know if it's gonna go. All right, that was definitely the end of the roll, and then we got the rewind, and you can kind of hear it rewinding. So I might have got 37, 38 out of this, but all in all, better than I expected, if that makes any sense. I fully expected this to be a little bit more of a letdown. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, let's get the photos out of here, and then we'll see if it worked. One last thing to grab here. So rewound, I turned it off, and now I'm just gonna pop that back open. It doesn't really spring open. You can see it just kind of gently pops, and there's like a little bit of a notch there to kind of pull it. But, oh, that's really interesting. Okay, so it fully rewound, but it left the leader. Did not expect that. Fully expected it to fully rewind. Okay, interesting. Okay, it's the next day. Photos taken, photos developed, and wow, I am shocked, good and bad. Some things I didn't expect out of this camera, but let's get into it. Okay, first, I thought it would have been sacrilege if I shot on a Kodak camera with Fujifilm or anything else. So shot this with Kodak Color 200, as recommended by the manual again, anywhere between 100, 200, or 400 speed film. Again, it recommends in quote-unquote sunny conditions to use 100 or 200, and it was sunny conditions for this little walk from my Photoshop after picking up some film. So one caveat, I did not have auto flash turned on for most of this walk. I did try the flash out a few times. In those situations, I didn't force the flash, I just had auto flash turned on. And those photos did come out okay. In fact, I'd say they're better exposed, properly exposed, more so than some of the other shots I took without the flash. Even though it was a pretty sunny day, I would say the variety of exposure is a little bit all over the place. Not so surprising, the camera only shoots at 1/100th of a second for the shutter speed, and it'll only adjust and turn the flash on and off based on the exposure that it is metering. That's the only thing that the exposure meter really does here. But the photos that had the flash on, they did come out pretty good. In fact, I think those are better exposed than some of the others. But again, first roll on the camera, first test with the camera, how to kind of figure out and adjust to where it is. But I think if you're getting this camera for yourself, once you run a roll through it and try it out in different scenarios, you're gonna get a feel for what it likes and how it works. And if that's why you're here, this is what some of those look like. I think again, with the flash turned on, the exposure was a little bit more consistent. The ones without it, if you're looking for a little bit more of a creative look, a little bit more vignetting, you're gonna get that out of this lens and this camera. I think that's actually okay. I'm one of those people that prefers vignetting in my photos. But again, I think the most surprising bit is what the variety of shots look like. Again, I was walking down the same street, same time of day, within minutes of each other. I went through this entire roll in about 15, 20 minutes. It's a very quick walk. And you can see in some of the photos, the lighting looks way different than some of the others. It really varies shot to shot. And with that, I will say, it puts into perspective why the promo shots for this camera put out by Kodak Reto were someone walking on a beach in Coney Island in Brooklyn, where I am, but during the summer on a very, very sunny day. But again, any other condition, it's gonna have a little bit more variety there. Any other condition, it's gonna be a little bit different. I will say I haven't tried this out at night or with the flash on at night, so it'll be interesting to see what this thing is capable of in those kind of conditions, and I guess I'll try that out. But that's not to say this is a bad camera or a great camera either. It's, I think, somewhere in the middle. I think it's an okay camera. I think it's better than something like this, the Ultra F9, just as far as this is closer to being a disposable camera. This is closer to being a real point and shoot, something like a Canon Auto Boy, but it's not necessarily there. I think the big selling point for this camera is that form factor. I think this is really pocketable. So if you're someone that just wants to toss this in your bag, or you want to get it for someone that just wants a camera to take to parties or just walkabouts, this is perfectly fine. I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a moment. The one manual control this camera gives you over exposure is the flash, and I had it turned off. And that's how my shots came out. For the shots with the flash on, they are way better exposed. Take that as you will. Is it user error or the camera's fault? Again, I think if you put it in full auto, everything, which is again, just engaging that auto flash, this thing is just an easy peasy point and shoot. So again, I think that's the audience. Is it someone that just wants to have a camera on them that's small enough to throw in a purse or a bag or even your pocket, and also doesn't have a very easy to flip on power button. Again, you have to just like toggle that little power button there, and it's a little stiff enough that I think throwing this in your pocket will be perfectly fine. So with that, for someone like me, yes, I recommend this camera. The Kodak Snapic A1 is a cool little point and shoot at the price point. Again, for the price of two slightly above disposable camera aesthetics, you get a camera that is a lot smaller, a lot more pocketable, has some automatic features, a cool little OLED screen. I really do like that little OLED screen. I do tend to forget what focus zone I'm in sometimes, and that bit me a few times during this, but if you're paying attention, or you sort of train yourself to pay attention to the little top screen, it will remind you what setting you're in. So instead of looking at the front of the camera, you can just sort of glance at the top and see how many frames you've taken so far, and also what focus mode you are in. For me personally, if I'm gonna buy someone a 35mm camera who's just getting started, who doesn't shoot film, the kind of person you have to buy the camera and the film for, I think this is really good, especially with the holidays around the time of this release. I think this is a pretty good camera to give someone as a gift, especially if they're just getting started out, especially if they're new to this. This is pretty automatic. And again, for me, the automatic bits of this camera are extra little selling points. I think that auto winding and auto advancing the camera does with the film makes it a lot easier, a lot less to think about, especially for someone who's new to this. But even for someone like me, I don't like having to sit there and wind the camera every time. Again, just being able to point, shoot, and then put it back in your pocket makes this something that's really easy to carry. But to synopsis it a bit, if it means anything, I threw another roll of Kodak Kodacolor 200 into here. I want to play around with it a little bit more and try it out. And again, it's so pocketable that it's a lot easier for me to carry around than some of my other cameras, especially SLRs. But as far as point and shoots go too, I really like the form factor. Again, form factor wise, pretty close to a Ricoh GR1. And I like that about this. And again, the leg up with that is I'm not afraid to drop this or bang it around, and that power switch on top makes it a little harder to accidentally fire off in your pocket. There's also no lens popping out of here or anything. And honestly, the only thing that user error I totally expect a lot of people to mess up is that zone focus and forgetting or remembering to toggle it depending on your shot. So all in all, do I recommend the Kodak Snapic A1? Yeah, I do. I think it depends on your situation, but I think depending on who you are, it makes sense in a few different ways. If you or someone you know is getting into 35mm film and just wants a small little point and shoot pocketable camera, this is perfectly fine. It doesn't leave a lot up to manual control, again, with the exception of that flash. So it's really hard to screw this up. If you're someone that shoots SLRs, this is perfectly fine to just pick up and throw in your bag. It's a lot easier to pull out than cameras and lenses and all those things. But also, it's just easy. To be clear, this camera is not going to be someone's go-to pocketable street photography camera. I don't see that happening. To each his own, but again, the lack of manual controls sort of puts that into a different category. The category it does put itself into is just not overthinking your shots. And if that flash is on and you're at a party, or you're out in the street, or at the beach, or anywhere else, I think this is gonna suffice easily. It's very easy to use. It's got enough automatic features on it that makes it something you don't have to overthink about, but it doesn't have enough manual controls to make it something that's really versatile. So I'll put it that way. I think this is worth picking up if you have $100 laying around and you want to burn it on a cool little camera that you can take around and keep on you at all times. And I have a lot more film cameras we're going to do reviews on. If there's one you're looking for or just want to get some insight into, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.